Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Horror Room. I am Travis Bruce, and today we're doing another indie horror spotlight. Today I have with us. So let me tell you, I did a Tubi Tuesday review a couple months ago that blew up, and I was on Tubi and I saw the poster and I saw RECTUMA, and I did a review of it, and everybody loved it, and it's my most popular Tubi Tuesday review. So I was like, let me go ahead and find the director and reach out to him and see if I can have him come on the show. And I did. Today I have with us Mark Pirro. Mark, welcome to the Horror Realm.
Hello, thanks for having me, Travis.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, tell them a little bit about RECTUMA.
Well, RECTUMA is about a giant ass that terrorizes Los Angeles. Basically, a guy goes to Mexico. He gets infected by a Mexican butt-humping bullfrog that basically puts an infection in his butt. He goes to a doctor. The doctor uses some radioactive rods to try and counteract the problem, but it just makes it worse. The rod breaks in his ass, and all of a sudden the ass starts getting bigger and bigger, basically detaching itself from him, and goes on a rampage, killing various people. I hope you don't mind my little mascot here. But anyway.
Mine's will be here soon too, so don't worry about it.
Anyway, his ass goes on a rampage, basically takes revenge on the people that have wronged him, and ultimately, I guess, basically destroys the world, or parts of it anyway. And then he ultimately becomes, what's the word I'm looking for here? He decides that once the S is blown up, because that's the spoiler alert, the S gets blown up at the end of the film. Then he comes back to the doctor, and now he's having a problem with his balls, and that's where we end the movie, although we kind of put a teaser in for another movie called Scroton, which isn't going to happen, but that was just... So I guess that kind of puts it in a nutshell.
So what gave you inspiration for this film?
Inspiration? Well, Godzilla, I suppose. This does kind of parody the Japanese giant monster movies. We do kind of parody Godzilla, Mothra. I think we take a stab at Deliverance in it. We kind of, I think we do a bit on The Wizard of Oz. I mean, I like to do parodies of other films in pretty much all my films. And in this one here, I always thought, well, Godzilla is this big giant creature, and let's just make it an ass, Asszilla. But it and the movie actually sold in Japan, of all places, and did very well there on home video. So go figure.
Because one of the things I said in my review was I was like, I didn't know if it was a voiceover or not, but if someone commented in the comments, no, I think they were trying to dub it like a Godzilla movie. I said, oh.
Yeah, you're talking about the Japanese ass killer who comes in from Japan, right? Toshiro.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that was done as a complete parody. I mean, he
okay.
My voice, and yeah, as you see his mouth basically moving, he's saying something else. And I thought it would have been an obvious joke because he got a lot of people looking at him kind of like this.
Put over my head.
And got one lady that's going, like this, and he even says, "Is there something wrong? Is there spinach in my teeth? What's going on?" But that should have been an obvious gag.
But completely over my head. I told a watcher comment on my review. I was like, "Oh,
yeah, you have to sit up a little higher." That's all.
Yeah. Now, this movie has a lot of ass and shit jokes in it.
There aren't that many shit jokes in it. We kept the shit jokes.
But there's a lot of shit. But there's a lot of shit in it. There's a lot of shit in this movie.
A little bit. I mean, there's like before the ass actually gets big, it's still the same size, and it causes a few murders, and it kind of spews a little fecal matter on its victims. So we do see a little gunk and stuff. But yeah, we were kind of tame on the shit itself, more or less.
Now, is it fun to do parodies of indie horror movies?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing them pretty much all my life. My first movie was a comedy about vampires. It was called A Polish Vampire in Burbank. We made it back in 1983, and it's about a vampire that's never bitten anybody before because he thinks his fangs are too small, and he's kind of paranoid about it. Anyway, we did that movie, which parodied a lot of the vampire films. You know, we parodied the Dracula films, we parodied the Wolfman movies, and then we did a movie called Curse of the Queer Wolf, which is about a guy that turns gay when the moon rises, and that's a parody of the Wolfman or American Werewolf in London or any of that. So
I gotta watch
we,
that one.
I'm sorry, was that?
So now I gotta watch that one now.
Oh yeah, definitely should check these out because they're all very much parodies. We did a comedy musical called Nudist Colony of the Dead, which was sort of a send up of all the dead zombie kind of movies, and we made that one a musical. That one was done in the early '90s. We did a parody of the Bible. I mean, we made a movie called The God Complex, which basically takes a lot of the stories from the Bible and turns them on their ear. So you know, we really make it sort of we take a logical look at these crazy stories that are in the Bible, like Noah's Ark and Abraham and Isaac and Adam and Eve and Jesus's, and you know, so that it wasn't so much a parody of a movie; it was just a parody of the Bible. But most of my films, with the exception of one, I did a movie called Rage of Innocence, which was my only not comedy. It was a thriller that we did around 2014, I think, and yeah, I thought I'd try a little change of pace after doing all these crazy comedies. So there's that.
You've been doing it since the '80s.
Yeah.
Isn't it crazy how indie horror has blown up now? I mean, so many filmmakers are now individuals who probably wouldn't be able to make movies are making movies with their iPhones and you know and
Mhm.
cameras.
That's
Isn't
the
it
thing.
crazy?
Yeah, technology today has pretty much made it so that anybody can be a filmmaker. You know, budget is no longer an excuse, or shouldn't have to be. I mean, my last film, I did a movie called The Deceased Won't Desist. That was my last movie, made about 3 years ago, and we had one day where our camera failed. We had a problem with it, and we ended up shooting the whole scene with a iPhone. You know, shooting it at 4K, and the scene is in the movie, and I defy anybody to know which scene it was because the quality that you can get on the iPhone is phenomenal. You know, so yeah, people today, they're out there doing it, and when we were doing it, we shot our early films in a format called Super 8, which I would imagine a lot of your audience probably never even heard of. It was the precursor to video, and it used to be, you could probably Google these cameras. The cameras looked like little pistols. They had little grips on them. I'd be afraid to use it today. You'd probably get shot by somebody. But and they would take a load of film, you know, like a Super 8 movie film. You'd run about 2.5 minutes, and then you'd have to change the load, put in another cartridge, and that's how we shot my first couple of movies because the quality, which is minimal, but the cost was a lot cheaper than to go out and shoot 16 millimeter, and of course 35 millimeter was out of the question. So that was pretty much the early pioneer way of making films back in the 70s and 80s.
you know, I'm an '80s kid. I'm from the VHS video store days,
All right.
and like the way I got my horror movies was by the cover. And I would
Yeah.
see something like Sleepaway Camp or RECTUMA,
Right.
and I would be like, this looks awesome, and I would grab it. Now, as a filmmaker who's was in that area, the VHS days, and now overgrown to Tubi and streaming, has is streaming more profitable as a filmmaker?
Um, Not really. I mean, when we sold Polish Vampire, for example, it was a shock to all of us. We didn't really make the movie that we didn't think it was going to sell. We did it as a showcase. We made a movie. Let's show it to people and see if we can get studios behind us, which did work. I mean, I did get hired by a couple different studios to make movies for them, based on the strength of them seeing Polish Vampire. But we found a representative that said, you know what, I'm going to try and market this as a regular movie. We won't tell anybody the budget. We won't tell anybody how you shot it. I'm going to take it to Cannes. I'll take it to these different film festivals, and we'll see what happens. And he sold it to home video, which was a big shock to us all. Made 100 times its budget, and that was sort of like a big chunk of change that came at the beginning. Then, when we did other movies, the same thing. You find a video distributor that gets it out on VHS, then later on DVD. Today, streaming, it may not be as profitable because you're really not making a lot off of each review, unless it's a blockbuster. but you can kind of steer your audience to it. You can, at least your movie's out there, and people will discover it. People will find it. We have, like, Polish Vampire is going to be coming out on Blu-ray for the first time, and that was a deal that I made with a company called Wild Eye Releasing, yeah, and they. They're basically taking the movie, remastering it, and putting it out on home video. My cat just got right in front of the camera. Excuse me. Eat it. But anyway, so and not DVD and Blu-ray is not as popular as it might have been 10 years ago, but collectors still like them because they want the physical medium. So that's why we're putting this one out. We may put out Queer Wolf as well, and maybe some of the later ones. But to answer your question, streaming puts it out there. It's anybody can go to Tubi and they can watch it. But like I say, we did better when it was on physical media. When it's on DVD or Blu-ray, that sort of thing.
Now, do you feel like the indie horror market is, because it's so easy to make films, do you think is getting oversaturated?
Well, yeah, I would say films in general are being oversaturated. I mean, if you go to any of these streaming sites, you're going to see. I mean, even Netflix. You can go to Netflix and you're going to see hundreds of movies you never heard of before, and some of them even have big actors in them. In the early days, you'd make a movie on a low budget, it would wind up going to a drive-in theater, or it'd be like a double bill at a drive-in, or it'd be at a second-run theater, a revival house, that sort of thing. But now the dumping ground is pretty much streaming. You can put anything out on Tubi, or even if you just want to put it on YouTube on your own, you can do a movie, put it out on YouTube. So there are more avenues for your films to be seen. But as far as and also because of that, you've got so many more people that are making their own little movies. I mean, there's a lot of crap out there too, but there always will. But even back in my day, I sound like an old cadre here. In my day, it took a little bit of a commitment to make a movie, because you still had to spend money on raw stock and processing at the very least. Nowadays, you shoot with your iPhone. You don't have to spend anything on your, on the medium. And in fact, of all the films I've done, the last maybe 5 films really cost less to make than my first 5 films, because of the new, the technology. So, and you can edit it on your own computer. You can print your own DVDs. You can go to Photoshop, do your own boxes. I mean, it's really made creativity self-contained. It's a lot easier to do it. And again, there's no excuse anymore, unless you don't have the talent. But even that won't stop people sometimes.
It really doesn't stop.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, are there some indie filmmakers that, new indie filmmakers that you have been impressed by, or that you follow and you're like, wow, I like where they're going?
Well, it depends on how you define indie filmmakers. I mean, there's a couple of friends of mine that have been making films up in San Francisco. A guy named Rick Popko and Dan West. They did a movie called Monstered, which is about a giant shit monster. I don't know if there's a theme going on here or whatever, but
okay.
They also did a movie called Retarded, which is about special needs zombies. But they were inspired by me. They actually contacted me years ago, saying that they saw one of my early films and they went out and bought Super 8 equipment and they got all excited about it and they started making their own little films. So we kept in touch. Other than that, there's indie filmmakers but they're not so much indie. Like Tim Burton. I love a lot of Tim Burton's films. He's hit and miss, but who isn't? And in the early days, I used to be inspired by people like Mel Brooks and Woody Allen and the Zuckers, who did Airplane. But as far as filmmakers on my level, there's a lot of them, but I don't really keep up with a lot of them. I mean, I might have years ago, but I'm sort of at an age now where I don't really pursue it as much as I used to. I'm kind of basically saying, like, my last film is probably my last film, because I'm feeling like I'm more or less retiring at this stage of the game. This is really something for younger people, I think. But it's been a fun ride. We enjoyed doing it.
Now, has anyone ever compared your movies to Trauma?
Oh yeah. In fact, Trauma at one time wanted some of my films. but
Right.
they don't pay very well, and they basically, I think they wanted two or three of my early films, and it was one of these like, well, we don't have a lot of money, but you could say you're a trauma guy. It's like, oh, thank you, appreciate it, but but yeah, I've been compared to Trauma. Who else have they compared me to? God, I'm trying to remember now. Trauma is pretty much it. I think that
Mhm.
there's so many different people out there that do so many little films. The Zucker brothers, who did Airplane and Kentucky Fried Movie and all that. I've been compared to them years ago. Um, that's pretty much it that I can think of, anyway.
And I see it in the background. You have nudist. What is that?
Oh,
Nudist
these are
Colony of the Dead.
those are some of my posters. Yeah, that's my wall of shame. We've got you can see God Complex. There's the Rectuma poster. There is Curse of the Queer Wolf. The Deceased Won't Desist. Way in the corner, there's Death Row Game Show, which we did in the 80s. Nudist Colony of the Dead. This film up here, it's called Color Blinded. That was made in 1998. That's about a black girl that turns white overnight and what happens in her life, which is kind of fun. Um, and then there's Rage of Innocence over here, which is the one horror, not horror, but thriller. It's kind of like a suspense thriller. And what else do we got? Oh, then this one is Celluloid Soul. That's kind of a fantasy film, and it's kind of sweet and poignant. It's about an actress from the 1930s, and this guy discovers the movie today that she was in, and he kind of falls for her. Yeah, so he finds out that the actress is still alive, but she's 98 years old, and he wants to meet her. And when he finally gets her to meet him, she shows up on his doorstep looking exactly like she did in the movie, black and white with little vertical scratches going through her, and she looks like a film clip. And he thinks he's losing his mind, and so do his friends. But we kind of find out that that was sort of her essence from being in the film. It's kind of I won't call it a spiritual. So yeah, so he basically is having psychological problems, and throughout the movie, you're wondering out that we don't know if she really exists or if it's in his mind, and in the end, comes to a pretty satisfying conclusion, which explains a lot. And I think that covers everything. I did a
Yeah.
movie behind me called Buford's Beach Bunnies, which is one that I'm not really all that proud of.
The block,
But
yeah, right there. Yeah.
that was a work for hire. That was a company called Access Entertainment that hired me to make a sort of a sexy comedy. So we got Jim Hanks, Tom Hanks' brother, who actually looked very much like him, and we made this sort of sexy comedy, which is my least favorite film because it's not a movie that I would have made on my own. I kind of hoard myself out for that one, but and that was 35 millimeter. It was a higher budget film, but I don't own it. I was like the surrogate mother for that film. I
Now,
think
now,
that I think that covers all. Yeah.
now, now, I'm shocked that you came from the age of where everybody made tons of sequels. I'm shocked that you never decided to make a sequel with any of your films.
Well, I'm not really a fan of sequels because most of the time they're just cash-ins, ways to make more
Yeah.
money. Queer Wolf we could call a spin-off because Curse of the Queer Wolf. There's a character in my first film, Polish Vampire in Burbank, that the lead actor, which happened to be me because my original actor quit, but the lead character runs into this character, this other guy, in a jacuzzi, and he confesses that he's a queer wolf, and that means whenever the moon rises, he turns gay. And whenever we would screen the movie, that character got the best reactions because he basically says, the guy goes, "Well, there's no full moon out tonight." "Well, it's a half moon. That makes me bi." So there were a lot of crazy jokes in it. So I thought it'd be funny to take that character and do a whole movie about it, and that became Curse of the Queer Wolf. So it's not really a sequel to Polish Vampire, but it's like I'd say it's a spin-off. Other than that, I have really no intention or desire to make sequels. I figure you tell your story and you're done. Now if I were a bigger filmmaker, yeah, I'm sure they would say we need Polish Vampire 2 or we need RECTUMA or we need to do something here. But I was never in it for the money, believe it or not. I always did it because I just enjoyed the creative process. Some of the movies earn more money than some of the other movies do, but it was never the motivating factor for me right up to my last movie. It was always being done with just the love of being creative. A lot of our actors work for free, and I have a lot of actors that I've used again and again. They've been in
Mhm.
several of my movies, going all the way back to the beginning, and they just have a great time, and if they want to put any of the footage on their acting reel, I certainly provide them with the footage. I've never had a problem with giving actors their scenes, and in many cases, I even edit some of their demo reels. That's sort of my payment, for the actors. But it's sort of it's like an ensemble of people that really enjoy what we do.
Nice. Listen, Mark, this was a blast having you on, man. Listen, now I'm gonna be checking out Queer Wolf. Is that on Tubi?
Yeah, it's on. In fact, there's even the making of Queer Wolf on Tubi. There's the making. We got about 4 documentaries, I think, at least 4, maybe more, on Tubi. Making of Polish Vampire, making of Queer Wolf, making of Death Row Game Show, Celluloid Soul, God Complex. So yeah, there's a bunch of them on there, and I think there's a making of Rectuma, but not on Tubi because it was too it was too inappropriate for Tubi for some reason. They rejected
Okay.
the making of it, and I go, they got the movie on it, but the making of it is wrong. And somebody said, well, sometimes people, they like the sausage, but they don't like to see how the sausage is made. So go figure. But yeah, a good percentage of my films are up on Tubi. Really, all you need to do is type my name in the search window. For some reason, though, you need to go to the search window in Tubi and type Mark Bureau without putting a space. Usually, the first few movies that come up are mine. For some reason, there's a bunch later that are not mine. I don't know why it works out that way, but or you can go to my website and you can find specifically the movies you're looking for, and then just go to Tubi. I think some of them are on Amazon. Some of them are on Freevee. Some of them are on Roku. I just don't keep track anymore. I have a couple of people that represent me, and they get the movie on all these different platforms. Send me a check every few months, and I just kind of sit back and let it happen. I used to keep track when I was younger. I'd go to Blockbuster Video and see, hey, it's Polish Vampire. Is it out? It's out. But those were the early days. I've become much more jaded in my old age, so it's not quite as impressive as it used to be.
Well, Mark, it's been a blast having you on, man. Listen, I'm glad you're able to come on. Listen, everyone, get over to Tubi, type in Mark Hero, check out Rectuma. I'm gonna check out Queer Werewolf.
Queer wolf. Oh,
Queer Wolf. Okay.
They can just go to my website, which is pyromount.com, and you'll find trailers to all the films. You'll find behind-the-scenes stories.
And where can one find you on social media?
Let's see. Well, I have a Facebook page. I think I have a couple of Facebook pages. There's a Pyromount Facebook page, and there's a Mark Pyro Facebook page. Where else am I? I think that's about it. I have a LinkedIn, which I never go to. I used to have a Twitter account, which I don't anymore. Yeah, I'm not really as accessible as one would think, but most of the time, the best way to find me is through my website, because you can actually leave comments, and there's a section called Ask Me, Ask Mark Bureau, and I'll answer. So I've been pretty sociable on that, and Facebook, but yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Listen, everyone, please follow Mark Hero on social media. By the way, he's not a Trump supporter, so I know that for a fact.
You must have been on my website.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, too,
I was friends with comedian Judy Tenuta years ago before she passed away, and we did a lot of anti-Trump videos where she played Malaria, his wife, and I would play Trump with the wig on a whole bit, and we did a whole segment of those, which you can find those on YouTube. For that, you'd have to go for it's called The World Accordion to Judy, because she used to play the accordion. And we did a lot of those. Those were some short subjects that we did over the years. So, we do little things to keep ourselves occupied, even when we're not making feature films.
So I got to check that out, too.
Very good.
Please, everybody, support Mark Pyro. All right. Everyone, thank you for coming to the Horror Realm. I'm Travis Bruce, and that's Mark Pyro. We'll see you next time. Take care.